Welcome to the Feeling Loudly podcast, a show about human emotion and the way we navigate this life of trials and triggers and treasures with the help of astrology and tarot. I'm your host, Jana. I'm an astrologer, a tarot reader, and an Akashic Records reader, and I'm here to help you do this messy life with as much grace, ease, and pleasure as possible. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 7 of our 22 Days of Tarot series. I'm speaking quietly again because it is really, really late tonight. I'm up way past my bedtime for good reason, but it's going to be kind of a doozy episode because I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I had a little bit of wine tonight, and I'm coming off kind of a magical day and feeling that woo! So we'll do our best here, and I'll probably keep it short and not keep you too long. But as I mentioned, day 7, card 6, the Lovers of the Major Arcana. This is a Gemini card, and while the Lovers on the surface sounds like it's a card that's purely about love, it's actually has a lot to do with choice and integration. And sometimes people think about the Lovers as being more like integration of self, like light and shadow, bringing together the parts of ourselves that are easy breezy, beautiful to look at, delicious, and then the parts of us that are more challenging and difficult to be with and have that shadowy, often hectic, even scary nature about them that makes it difficult for us to look them in the eye and to look ourselves in the eye at times. And so before sitting down for this practice, I was spending time at my altar as usual, and the offerings card that I pulled today was reflection. And I was coming to my altar with a really big question about kind of what to do in a situation that felt super, super impactful, where I just felt like analysis paralysis and like my mind couldn't make a choice because it was so loud and it felt so heavy. And when the reflection card came, I was like, yeah, of course, it is the Lover's Day, and the Lovers is, for me, often bringing me to the mirror. It's like, what do I see within this other person, within this relationship, that is showing me something about myself that needs my attention? And that doesn't always have to be a negative thing. It can be a positive thing too. Like someone is like sweet and respectful and responsible, blah, blah, blah. And we really admire those qualities in them, but we tend to gloss over how those qualities appear within ourselves. And so I was just kind of like chewing on all these different disjointed thoughts about connection and trust and integration of self. And it got me thinking about this ayahuasca ceremony that I did in Portland, Oregon in 2020. And I did 2 that were like pretty much back to back, like in February of 2020 and then March of 2020, literally the night before Portland, Oregon went into lockdown. And it was very intense. I was moving through a lot of stuff, and it was really, really heavy. And the February ceremony that I did was super powerful, and I did a lot of release, especially around stuff with my dad, and it cleared a lot of room, but it was also quite challenging because when you pull on energetic cords like that, you'll often notice that they snap back at you in a big way. And so I was going into the February ceremony with the intention of basically like cutting ties with my dad and kind of rejecting the authoritarian kind of rule that he had over me as a kid. And we were estranged at this point and hadn't spoken in quite a while, but in the hours leading up to ceremony, my older half-brother, who's not even his child, got like a series of texts from my dad that he was looking for me and that he couldn't find me and he needed to know where I was. And this was totally out of the blue. Like, he had not been in contact with my brother. He had not been reaching out to me. But because, presumably he felt that tug, he felt that need to lurch forward and to try to reestablish contact right before I was about to sever that tie. And I kind of waved it off, and I just like went into the ceremony and did my shit and spent a few days doing that. And then when I got back to Portland, the moment that I like first consciously remember after getting back into my apartment and going to sleep for like the heaviest sleep of my night is waking up, or of my life, I should say, is waking up to the sound of pounding knocks at my door, and groggily, in this like post-ceremony ayahuasca state, groggily walking over the door and seeing cops outside my door. And I don't like cops. I'm not a cop lover. I'm a big ACABer, and I saw these cops outside my door, and it freaked me the fuck out. And I opened it, and look, I'm like a white appearing, small, like, born AFAB person. And so I am not particularly threatened by the cops, but still nonetheless being in this like groggy like state, it was freaky. And we had this really like terse interaction where they basically said, your dad is looking for you. And I was so shocked and so disoriented. And I was like, well, I don't want him to know where I live. And they were like, okay, you're clearly sick, so we'll leave you alone. And like, I obviously wasn't sick, but they could just tell that I was like out of it. And I was like, all right, like, please don't tell him where I live. And they just walked off. And so it was really jarring. And then a month later, I went into my second ceremony and had a night where I felt like this deep sexual awakening that happened after a long period of feeling but very, very repressed. And I'd been coming off of this health crisis and like a whole hormonal crisis that basically left me like not desiring sex for almost 2 years. And my body was starting to come back online as I healed in the months leading up to this. And I like had a partner, a sexual partner, not like a romantic partner. And so it's not like I was dread up or anything, but I also was not feeling alive. And that second ceremony very much brought me back to life in a big way and helped me kind of reemerge into the world. But then it also happened the night before lockdown again. And so from that point forward, I went into a really, really dark place and had like a very deep depression for the first stretch of quarantine, as so many people did. And it was tough. And I also went into this space where I was like really exploring my shadow in a huge, huge way, and kind of recklessly. Like throughout the first few months of quarantine, I was high a lot of the time. I was dissociating to the max and just like trying to survive and kind of get through. And that's dramatic because I wasn't like at risk. I wasn't like a first responder or anything. I was just in my fucking apartment in Portland, Oregon, withering away, alone and just feeling like very isolated. And so it's not like I was trying to survive theoretically or literally, but like I was struggling in a really, really big way, and was very, very raw from the experiences that I'd just had, but had no way to integrate them in any fashion. Because we couldn't be in contact with people, at least physically, and people's bandwidth was really, really low. And so the folks who I would normally depend on in that situation and whose support had been offered until reality struck was just not there. And so I was sort of like out to sea, and had a really rough mental health go of it, and got swept into a long distance relationship during that time that exacerbated that, and it was just a dark period, like dark night of the soul to the max. And the reason I share this is because that ceremony has come up like 3 times today in conversation and in my poll today, my tarot poll. After pulling the Lovers, our like little intuitive extra prompt for this day was to pull another card to get clarification, and I got the Page of Wands. And when I integrated that, it just brought me back to that ceremony. And I was thinking about how at one point there was this guy who was a drummer who was a part of the circle, and he wasn't like a leader of it by any means, but he like showed up and played, and I had a crush on this guy, and we'd like had a little back and forth before, and I felt such an intense desire for him during that circle and then after, and I really had to like play with that. And it reminds me of the Page of Wands in this card, which features this flame and this hand that's reaching toward it. And it literally looks like this hand is playing with fire. And that's a phrase that's come up a lot for me lately because, like, coming off the heels of the crush situation that I described earlier in these episodes, I really could like tell that I was playing with fire by I guess opening myself up to someone that I was crushing on, and then later learning that they were unavailable. And I felt that ache of like, oh my God, like this is risky, and it feels thrilling at the same time. And there's this part of me, a past version of me, that would act on this in a big way when I was less wise. And like I've been the other human before, not for a very, very, very long time, but I've cheated with a partner, and I've cheated on a partner, and all of it was when I was like in high school slash about to leave for high school. And so, you know, it was like very, very young times for me. But it really, that stuff brought me into both the loving and like literally loving romantic lover side of the Lovers, and also the like shadowy and light part of the Lovers, where during those periods, I behaved in ways that I wasn't super proud of, but there was also a part of me that didn't regret it because it felt really authentic. And that's kind of embarrassing to admit out loud because, like, I know a lot of us have a lot of ethics and thoughts about cheating and all of that. But at the time, like, I was deeply in love with someone, and the connection was really, really powerful, and it overrode my conscious, like, value-oriented mind. And that was that. And it happened, and it took me a really long time to forgive myself, especially for the way that I hurt other people and the way that I prioritized my own desires over other people. And I'll be honest with you, I still look back on that, and I don't particularly regret the choice because it was transformative. And it showed me parts of myself that I didn't yet know. And I think it's complicated, right? Because, like, I'm someone who has very, very strong personal values, but at times I can hold those over myself moralistically, and it roots back to more of my, like, religious programming, where it becomes kind of inhumane, and it becomes impossible to like live up to those standards. And then I judge myself for having human desires and human emotions. And this week has been a really big shift for me in that regard, in the way that I kind of hold myself accountable to other people's morals and to other people's beliefs and other people's ways of living, and kind of accept those at times as truth. And I don't mean like hardcore, like bigots or anything, like fuck them, but I mean, whatever. I have compassion for them too at the end of the day. But like, I'm saying I don't mean those people's morals that I hold myself up to, but just like conventions that I do. And so it was just really fascinating to explore like reflecting on myself and how my guides might see me and how I see me in the mirror when I look at myself, and how I see love and connection, and can I have connections with people that sort of verge into nuanced gray zone territory where the boundaries aren't always so clear, and we can really only rely on open communication and honesty and transparency to kind of navigate the waters, and a fair bit of like self-awareness. So my oracles today were Teachers and Connection, which are 2 cards that I got a few days ago, and it's about, for me, the way that connection teaches us so much about ourselves, but we have to kind of say yes to it. We have to engage, and sometimes that means taking risks, and sometimes that means getting hurt, and sometimes it means hurting other people. And that's just a part of life. Like, I've been the bad guy, so to speak. I've been the good guy, so to speak. I've been the victim and the villain and everything in between. And that's just a part of being human. None of us are inherently good or bad. We just are, and we contain all of those parts within us. And coming to love all of those parts within me has been huge, especially when it comes back to this material that has me like eyebrow raise at myself. Like, why would I do that? Why would they do that? And that voice has really declined over the years, but like particularly, honestly, this week. And as the moralism dies down, it's easier for me to come into my heart. And it's easier for me to identify what I want and to be honest about it, and to not like swim in shame over being a human who's flawed and who just is. And a couple other people posted in Discord about similar topics, especially like navigating relationships where it feels fuzzy and where there are kind of unspoken rules or unspoken expectations that we can challenge or accept or innovate. And I think the call for me today was to innovate on the way that I kind of carry myself in relationships, and to understand that I'm bound to make mistakes, and so are other people, and it's just a matter of offering ourselves grace through the process of messing up and learning and messing up and learning, and just growth. It can be sticky. So that, I think, is enough rambling for today. I'm so tired, and I feel like this isn't making any sense, but whatever. We're here. We're doing it. I'm going to post it, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Good night.